In this lesson we are going to work on the listings. Alright, so it's going to be on the same page. So I've got a Sublime BS3 plugin which generates this code here. So you can simply pause and do the same thing I've done. Alright, so for the headers, we have name, we have status, we have created, and here we have actions. So copy this and paste this a few more times. Alright, so I'm going to put some spaces above our table rows. Alright, so here we are going to create another instance variable called tags. So we're going to get all the tags and we want to order it in descending order. Okay, so the last created will be at the top. Okay, so here we are going to iterate over each of the tags in our database. Okay, so tags.each, and each one will be referred to as tag. And we can end our tag loop here. So select everything and click the tab key to indent. Okay, so the first one is the name. So it's tag.name. So that gives us the name. And then the second one will be the status. So if you see here, status is in use and not in use. Okay, so let's reset the page and we can see our names here. So we don't want the status to be true or false, which is what it is by default. So Command P, and let's navigate to our tags model, Command or Control P, depending on your machine. And here we say we define in use method. So this is going to basically check. So we see here post tags. When we have a new tag, it gets stored in here when it's used by a post. Okay, so we're checking the post tag model. Every model has a method called exists with a question mark at the end. So we're basically asking if a particular field exists. So we're checking if the tag ID with this value in it exists. Alright, so post tag, I'll check if a particular ID exists in it. So when we use this method on an object, so we refer to that object as the self. So let's see how this works. So over here, I say tag dot exists. Okay, tag in use question mark. So this tag here basically comes into our model and becomes self, and we can call ID on it. All right, so that's what this does. So now when we refresh our screen, we should now have our status. So we have false, 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 and true all the way down. So these three are not in use. Now we have a helper. So if you go to the helper, I go to application helper, we have this status converter which we could use. So if I copy that and come over here, space and paste. So now you can cut this and remove one of the white space and then paste it in here. So when it's true, true-the, we say it's in use. When it's false, falsy, we say not in use. Alright, so helper to the rescue, and now we refresh the page. So we now have not in use, not in use, not in use, and the rest in use. Alright, so now we have our created, which we can also reference our helper. We have this time ago, which accepts time as an argument. So over here, we can say time ago, and then we can change a time to tag.createdAt method. Okay, so that's what we have. So now let's have a look, and it gives you when I created this was a day ago, and the rest of them 7 days ago. Alright, so now we have our actions. So actions has a few additions to it. So let's start with generally creating a link. Okay, so this is what a link to is like. We've done this a lot of times, but this time we're going to do a link to slightly different. Let's start with the roots that we want to map our link to, so the controller methods. So over here, for example, we have our new admin tag. Alright, so when we click on link to, it's going to direct to this this tag. Alright, so we have edit, which is really what we want, not the new one. So if I take this instead, edit admin tags, it has an ID which is aspects. So I'm going to replace that and put this in here. So every edit needs to know what we want to edit. So we pass in the tag object that we want to edit. And now I say do, which is slightly different to what we usually, what we've usually done. So, but do allows us to pass in any arbitrary HTML code. So in this case, I want to use button like this. So I create a button. All right, and the button will have edit, and we'll close the button. All right, so slightly different. So link to, rather than put the name of the what we want to link to, we'll put edit there. So it's slightly different. Now when I reset the page down here, something is not right. The method name is wrong, so I need to have underscore path. Okay, so link to, I will give it a path immediately, and then that's what we have. We have our edit button. All right, so now we have our edit. I want to have another one, so I paste it there. So I have a look at the path. So we can see admin tag has a few methods. It listens out for update and destroy. All right, so when we come over here, we could remove the edit, okay, and then we see we require ID for them. That's fine, so we'll leave the tag there. All right, so this is edit is going to change to delete, and the other thing we have to make sure we add is method is delete. Okay, so now we know we're mapping it to the delete method in our controller. Now let's refresh the page. We have our edit buttons there. All right, so we have done the listing of tags with name and actions. Edit and delete is done. Make the delete button inactive is something we can work on next. All right, so when a tag is used, we don't want to be able to delete it. Okay, so we want to say over here, if tag in use, all right, select this and tab to indent. If a tag is in use, then print this link, for example. Okay, and then we'll say else. If it's not in use, then we're going to print a different type of link. So this link, I'm going to change some of the link in the top section, but for now it's fine. So I'm just going to copy it and paste it here, and then let's go ahead and change things around. So if this tag is in use, we don't want to link to anything, right? So, and we don't want to delete anything. So I'm just going to put nothing in here, or just a hashtag. So we're linking to nothing, all right? And also Bootstrap has a class which we could use, which is called disabled. Okay, so that's fine. So when we have Bootstrap, it will help us to disable the button. All right, so when it's not in use, then we want everything else to be fine. So let's refresh the page. And now we have a delete buttons there. So these three are not in use. Let's say right click and inspect element. You can see that the delete button is there, and it allows us to delete. If I right click on one of the ones down here which are in use, it has the disable and it links to nothing. So this means that when I click on these ones down here, nothing happens. All right, but you can see it links to a hashtag. But when I try to click on the CSS one, it will try to show a template which is not configured yet. So we can see that they behave differently. So it's getting there. So all this code here, we could migrate, take this out, extract it, and put it in a helper so that our view is nice and tidy and easier to read. So if I go into our tags helper, okay, I'm going to create a new method for this helper. So we say define. So we'll call this create deletable button, okay, which will accept an argument which will be tag. Alright, so I'm going to, in here, paste what we've copied over, select all this, hold your shift and tab key, tap your tab key over and over again to go back. Now I'm going to delete all the opening and closing Ruby tags because we are in a Ruby file, so we don't need the tags there. Alright, so get rid of this. And get rid of this. So indenting is shift and tab, and this is the final one, so we'll get rid of this. Alright, so we have the code there, but we have the button, which is HTML and not Ruby. So to do that, to convert that into a Ruby, we have this content tag helper, which looks like this. When we give it a P, it generates this out here for us. So let's do that. So we're going to use Ruby to generate HTML elements. So we say content tag, and then we give it, we say button is what we want to create, and the value that we want to have in the button is delete. And also we have a class which is disabled, so we're going to do the same here. So now we could get rid of this line 5 and we could rely on this to generate the button for us. So let's copy that and paste it down here. What we don't need is the class disable, and everything else is fine. So let's delete line 9. Okay, so there we have our new helper, which should generate a tag. So the tag is passed into it, and it checks if the tag is in use, and it does what we want it to do. So let's copy this method, go into our new.html, and then we say print the content that's returned by this method. So this is the method there. We pass in tag, which is still the same tag that's yielded up here. So everything should just work fine. Alright, so let's come over here, refresh the page, and it's all fine. So nothing is broken. So we can still click on this, and this do nothing, and this 3 here will do, when we click on them, they do what we expect them to do, which is bring up missing template. Okay, so we have taken care of this. This is done, and the delete side of things we are going to work on. So we have all these sections, and we have this disabled will work when we have Bootstrap put in there. So everything's fine. So we can delete the white space here, and this is where we end this lesson. We've learned a few things here, and I'll see you in the next lesson.